What's up, vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today we're talking about this.
As far as the Department of Energy goes, doesn't exist because they don't want people asking to see it. They don't want people to access that. This guy did. He got out there, took pictures of it, and petitioned Senator Reid and others to acknowledge that it's out there and to let people in to see it. His home video is here. I got it. It's a great story.
Ooh. You're not saying the floor opened up.
No, I am saying he's
out
sitting here looking.
Out of interdimensional space,
Yeah.
a door opened with light behind it,
Yeah.
and he said this to you.
Yeah.
All right, vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. All right, vetters, so first, before we begin, I just want to say, if you can hear some background noise happening, I apologize. There is a, downright party happening just outside of my studio here in the main plaza of the town where I live here in Spain. They're celebrating Carnavales, if you've ever heard of that. It's just a big party every night. Basically, that's what happens. Anyway, I apologize. So I'll try to make sure you don't hear it. And if you don't hear anything, great. If you do, now you know what's happening. All right, so what's today's video about? Well, it's about a lot of things, to be honest with you. On the most recent episode of Weaponized, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp spoke about someone named Jerry Freeman. And basically his story goes as such. On April 22nd, 1997, Jerry Freeman took a 7-day, 100-mile trek through the Nevada test site and into highly restricted Air Force property in his search for an inscription made in 1849. He wasn't looking for UFOs. He was looking for evidence of pioneers traveling through that area during the gold rush of 1849. He found the evidence he was looking for, but he also found evidence he wasn't looking for. And according to George Knapp and Jerry Freeman himself, he may have seen a portal open up to another dimension right in front of him in an area we're all too familiar with that he was near, Area 51, specifically Papoose Lake, where same area that Bob Lazar spoke of. So let's jump into this. Now, I will say at the very end of this video, there's some comments that George Knapp made about Bob Lazar that you're gonna want to hear about whether or not he will be testifying in any upcoming congressional UFO hearings. And I think his answer may surprise you. But first, let's cover Jerry Freeman here and what Jeremy and George had to say about him.
Another thing about Jerry Freeman, I actually have the audio where he describes, because he called into Coast to Coast at some point. So he describes the rumbling of the ground and the opening of that door of light. And, if appropriate, I think we should put that insert that audio into this episode, because it was really impactful to hear not a UFO guy who ended up dying of the cancer, allegedly from crawling around all the test site stuff.
Yep.
But, basically, and you have all of his photos and notes, and I went through that whole box at your house. It was spectacular. So shout out to Jerry Freeman. Rest in peace.
Without describing specifically what's in the photographs.
It's a magnificent, clear photograph of Papoose Lake taken in the daytime. During the daytime now, I got within a mile of the lake bed, and I had a powerful set of binoculars.
Yes.
It looked like a dry lake bed to me, nothing else.
Well, that's what
But
it
at
is.
night, it was a different story.
Now, there's a lot more clips, so just stay with me. But, what's interesting about this and sad at the same time is that, he went out on this adventure, clearly, broke some laws, did some things, saw some things he wasn't supposed to, right? Got some pictures he wasn't supposed to get. And during this, he kind of, gets radiation sickness essentially from being out there in these Nevada test sites where they tested atomic weapons, right? So it's sad that he ended up passing away from cancer from all of this, and deeply disturbing, to be honest with you. That's just not a good way to go. So my heart goes out to him and his family. for sure. That's not a way you want to go out. But he did leave us with an absolutely amazing story.
So he came from the other direction. He
And
came
this
from,
is supposedly before S4 was built.
well,
See,
the
that's
49ers
correct.
came through before it, but
Right.
he
Was out there when S4 was operating.
did his stuff when it was operating. He
But
did it like 2 years after Bob's story came out, but he had no idea about the UFO stuff. This guy is an archaeologist. His name is Jerry Freeman, and he had an idea. He wanted to track the history of the 49ers, the groups of settlers who came across the country in 1849 to get to the California goldfields. So he had a unique idea. He infiltrated the Nevada test site from the south and the west and traveled all the way across it. He sneaked across it, avoiding security, knew he was trespassing, but he would travel at night and hide under rocks and in caves during the day. He made it all the way up to Papoose Lake. This was in, the story is 1997. So it's after the Bob Lazar story has come out. This guy has no idea about Bob Lazar. He has no idea about flying saucers. He's not into that. But he traveled all the way up to Papoose Lake. And in his story, and I inherited a lot of his files, he says he was out at night by Papoose, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a door opens up. I mean, like just a door in space, a light, a bluish light that opened up, a doorway to who knows where, and then poof, it was gone. This guy had no idea about flying saucers, Bob Lazar, John Lear, any of this stuff. But that's the story he told. Unfortunately, as he traversed the Nevada test site, he ran into pockets of radiation and contracted cancer and died. Nonetheless, a lot of his files, a lot of his footage, his home video is here. I got it. It's a great story.
And this is a great story, sad, honestly, the way it ended. But now it's George kind of states that it's about 2 years after Bob came out. It's clearly about 10 years almost after Bob came out in the late 80s. This guy went in 1997, so it's almost 10 years. It's very well possible he could have heard about this. I mean, that was a worldwide story. That's kind of the point that people talk about with Bob Lazar and Area 51 and all that coming out, right? It was worldwide. It did get covered. So I don't know, but he probably said I think he said that's what George is implying. He said he had never heard of any of that stuff when he went out there. I don't know if that hurts the story or not, to be honest with you, if he had heard it or he didn't. I mean, he either saw something or he didn't, regardless of what his knowledge is beforehand, right? I think a lot of times people try to say that, like, he's not a UFO guy, he's not this, not that, so to make it seem more credible if they're talking about something extraordinary. But I always think to myself, that doesn't really matter to me, whether you're into UFOs or not or whatever, you know what I mean? The evidence speaks for itself, right? And clearly this guy went out there and did this. That is for sure. Now, whether or not he saw something or there's any evidence of this portal opening up, that's a different part of the story, and nothing has come out with that kind of evidence. Just him telling this portal story, which I really couldn't find that exact same way that George is describing it, the way Jerry described it. So it is a little different, which is interesting, but clearly they had conversations. And, what's also interesting is George was originally going to cover the story, but he wasn't around. So someone else had to cover it for Las Vegas. But I don't know. It is very, very interesting. I mean, he had a book that he was going to put out about this, so could have been trying to do some press. I don't know. But he did go out on this trek, and he did go places he wasn't supposed to go. And he did get pictures of Papoose Lake that nobody had seen before, right? Now, I'm going to put a link down below to basically a PDF that was made of kind of excerpts from his diary of his trip during the 7 days, because he had a rough time, out in the sun. He ran out of water. He could have been delirious maybe seeing some of this stuff. I don't know. I've been out to Area 51. I've drove out there and I've seen it. It is hot. It's the desert, right? If you run out of water trekking for 7 days, that is not good, especially April. He went into May. I mean, that is not good. But he did go out there for other purposes and then had something extraordinary happen to him.
The arch. The huge stone arch depicted in this photograph does not exist, he says. The Department of Energy has decreed it so. Why? Because you and I might want to see it. And it's within a stone's throw of Yucca Mountain, which was designated as the nuclear repository. So he was petitioning Senator Reid to say, look, that stone arch is out there. The Department of Energy doesn't want to admit it because people would want to see it, and it's a crime to not allow people to see it. As far as the Department of Energy goes, it doesn't exist because they don't want people asking to see it. They don't want people to access that. This guy did. He got out there, took pictures of it, and petitioned Senator Reid and others to acknowledge that it's out there and to let people in to see it. And that is his Ark of the Covenant. That's what he went there for. He found that carving, 1849, in some rocks adjacent to Papoose Lake. And that was one brave dude and committed. And that's pretty ballsy. The guy could have been arrested, thrown into jail. I think there were people who wanted to throw him into jail after he admitted his story that he'd trespassed, because it was pretty clear that, in fact, he'd been out there.
So this part of the story is very interesting, this arch, right, that the Department of Energy allegedly is saying doesn't exist. This stuff doesn't exist, but he clearly has a picture of it, right? Now, they're not saying this is where the portal opened up, but what is that little arch opening, right? And why would you try to hide that? You don't want people going out there and seeing that or walking through it, or I don't know. That part is kind of still a mystery, to be honest with you. But clearly George has all these photos, files, everything. I wonder who all of this stuff is going to get handed down to eventually, right? Like, I guess it'll go to Jeremy Corbell, or who knows? I don't know. But a lot of this stuff, man, I really wish it would just come out. Let's put it out there. Let's see what's going on. But very interesting. Very, very interesting for sure.
2 years after Bob's story. But how do you even get on that land without
He came from the west.
And they didn't stop him. No. Sensors, nothing.
It is a gigantic facility. And he slipped in.
My mind can't understand.
He traveled at night, and he hid under rocks.
Oh, he knew he shouldn't be there.
Right. Oh, no, he knew he was trespassing.
Well, shit, he didn't know for S4 to look for the fucking hole in the side of the mountain?
Well, he didn't care about that. He was looking for the rocks, that carving right there that he took the picture of.
Fucking nerd.
That was the big prize for him. But while he's there hiding, that's when the door opened up.
No way. He said he saw the door open up.
And he's not a UFO
and he
guy.
doesn't know that shit.
Has no idea about this shit.
No fucking way. And he died from radiation stuff?
Yeah. Because he's sitting out there in the dark. Holy fuck, what the hell is that?
And there's light inside. And a door opened from the side of the mountain. That's where Bob
Not on the side of the mountain, right in the middle of the desert. In nothing. Nothing's there. There is no side of the mountain. It opens in complete darkness in the middle of the desert.
Ooh. You're not saying the floor opened up.
No, I am saying he's sitting here looking.
Out of interdimensional space.
Yeah.
A door opened with light behind it.
Yeah.
And he said this to you.
Yeah.
And he came to talk because he knew you were into this area.
Yeah, but he came to me, but I didn't get to do the story. It ended up being somebody else because I wasn't there at the time.
So there's some shit going on out at S4 that is way beyond our imagination.
Yeah, and this guy, like I said, not a UFO guy.
Dreamland.
Completely different adventure.
So a big part of this story, too, is, they're clearly trying to imply, and it's fine, that this sort of helps Bob Lazar's story, right? This sort of confirms some of the details that Bob Lazar had come out with, about S4, Papoose Lake, Area 51, right? Some of this stuff. And that there's extraordinary stuff happening around there, right? So, I don't know. That's kind of... Everyone's going to have to decide that for themselves, What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Does this help Bob Lazar's story, right? Now, we are going to get to the part where George Knapp comments on whether or not Bob Lazar is going to be testifying anytime soon. But before we get to that, here's a little excerpt of Jerry Freeman talking on Art Bell that they also shared on Weaponized.
It looked like a dry lake bed to me, nothing else.
Well, that's what
but
it is.
At night, it was a different story.
What did you see?
I could clearly see what were security lights on the perimeters, and I could see lights that opened and closed near the center of the lake. I felt vibration. I know I wasn't imagining it because there were rivulets of sand coming down just on the other side of this little wash, and I could see them. And I thought, well, hey, an earthquake. Well, then I realized, no, this is not an earthquake. It continued and continued for maybe nearly 2 minutes. It's something they're testing, either directly underground, or I was feeling vibrations completely from Groom Lake. I don't know. I think if they'd have caught me in there, they'd lit me up like a Roman candle.
And that episode is out there. You can find it. And it's very interesting, right, to hear Jerry Freeman talk about it. And clearly, had he not passed away, we could be getting more details about this. But it is a very fascinating story. And, you know, there's stuff out there about it, but not too much. Clearly, George has the most about this guy and his story, right? With this portal, this archway, these photographs, this home video. What is in that? I don't know. Right? Would love to see some of this home video footage of Jerry Freeman for sure. Does it show any of this stuff? Clearly, if it did, it would probably, be out, or they would be talking about it, right? So anyway, let me know what you think down below in the comments about Jerry Freeman's story. And have you heard of it before? I'm sure a lot of you are gonna be like, yeah, of course I've heard of this, Patrick. What are you talking about? And I've heard of it too. I just didn't know about some of this other stuff that they're talking about, right? This archway, and that George had some of this information, the home video and all of that. So anyway, now let's move on to George Knapp talking about Bob Lazar and whether or not he's going to be testifying anytime soon. And George actually gave some advice to Bob Lazar. And I think you're going to be surprised by what that advice is.
The first time I was asked to ask him if he would do it, maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And my initial, I had reservations, but I asked him, and maybe I was pushing him in that direction, and he said yes. If you think it's a good idea, yes.
Yeah. And
after a while, after thinking about it, I'm sorry that people will be mad at me for this, but I advised him not to do it. He's told his story. He does not owe ufology anything. He's been crapped on for more than 30 years by this topic and all the major players in it. It's not like he needs validation from UFO people. And you can see just him popping up on that stage in Austin, all the same crap gets dragged up all over again. And, I think it gets pretty old at this point. I remember interviewing him here in Las Vegas in maybe 2016 or somewhere around there. He came to town, and, he closes the interview with this, is people that don't believe you and doubt your story. Great. Good. My advice is spread it around. Tell everyone you know that you don't believe it and it's not true, and leave me alone. I don't think it would have been a good idea for him to testify. It would have been a pretty dramatic moment, but the story's been told, and the attacks on his credibility would start all over again. I didn't think it would be a good idea for him.
So look, that's probably not going to make a lot of people happy. I kind of have my own thoughts about it, but they also clearly have a relationship that goes back 30 something years, right? So I get it, right? There's a friendship there. It's a friendship I don't have, a connection I don't have. But if I separate myself, I just pull myself out and look at ufology as a whole and the claims that Bob made, I think he should testify, right? This whole idea that he doesn't owe ufology anything, well, it has nothing to do with ufology, right? It's about the truth to humanity, right? That's why he came out and talked about this stuff, right? Being on the forefront of technology, right? Which was Bob's whole interest in this, not UFOs or aliens, as he stated before. It's about the technology. So I think the whole reason people even know who Bob Lazar is because of the story he came out with. So I think he should testify, in a congressional hearing. But at the end of the day, that is his choice. But I can see why George would give him that advice, right? Like, it's not going to help. You're just going to get attacked. He's going to get attacked either way, right? It's like, might as well just do it. So I don't know. And Jeremy kind of afterwards kind of steps in and like, look, you know, maybe one day he will testify and this and that and things will change. And what I can tell, Jeremy kind of has a different viewpoint about it. And, you know, Bob did, to be fair, Bob is asking George, hey, if you think I should testify, I will, right? So clearly he's willing to do it. He's just kind of getting different advice from people he trusts to not do it and maybe to do it. So he's kind of like, I don't know, right? So I don't know. It is very interesting. I hope he does, but let me know what you think down in the comments if it's even necessary at this point. I mean, in my opinion, Bob is, quote, the perfect whistleblower. If it's all true what Bob said, he is the perfect whistleblower, right? It is every part of the typical, you know, standard UFO cover-up story, right? Secret base, UFOs, aliens, reverse engineered, archaeological components to this, you know, new technology, element 115, right? There's a lot going on there, right? It has all the hallmarks of just like the perfect story and cover up, right? So I don't know. Again, let me know what you think down in the comments. Now, the reason so many people are talking about Bob Lazar right now is because recently down in Austin, Texas, Chris Ramsey and Jesse Michaels both put on a live show. They titled it, It's Probably Nothing, right? As sort of a ironic take on, hey, this is happening. Probably nothing, right? Ironically, the same way I use Bombshell. If I ever did a live show, I'd call it Bombshell. They didn't get any hate for using It's Probably Nothing, but I get a lot of hate for using Bombshell, ironically. Anyway, I think maybe just because I use it a lot. I think that's what it is. But also people just love to hate Vetted. And I think no matter what I do, they're going to hate on me, right? Even when I don't put Bombshell, they put like, it doesn't matter what I do. It's just going to happen. That's my point with Bob. It's like, just come out. That's why I keep doing what I do. No matter what, hate's going to come my way no matter what I do. So I might as well just do me and do the best I can, right? So anyway, but at this live show in Austin, Texas, they had some special guests. One of them was Bob Lazar, as you can see right here. He stepped out and made a public appearance that he hasn't in a long time. And they actually showed the trailer for the new documentary about Bob Lazar that's coming out. Now, I do have video that Chris Ramsey released on Twitter of the moment Bob coming out at the show and people going nuts and wild and, you know, crazy, right? So that's pretty cool.
Please welcome director of Escalade, the Bob Lazar story, Luigi Venatelli, and Bob Lazar.
I don't even know what to say. This is so surreal.
I just want to shut up and listen. It's a very surreal moment.
I think whether or not you believe it, I can understand, get behind the motion of it, right? Like, oh yeah, okay. And it's like, yeah, he's been attacked, but he's also clearly loved in the community too, right? So he's always, I don't know if he gives enough credit or people around him give him enough credit to the community that does love him and support him and puts him up, you know, because again, he does get hate, but he clearly also gets a lot of love. So he could be, you know, do it for the people that respect him and like him and believe his story. Go testify for them. Go testify for all the people, Bob, if you ever see this, probably won't, but go testify for all the people that cheered for you there in Austin. And you know there's many more, right? And forget the haters, right? If your story's true, go say it under oath. You know, what's also interesting is I put out a fan trailer that I made, you know, about Bob Lazar, and I have my own, you know, opinions about Bob Lazar for sure, but just to have fun, I put out this fan trailer yesterday and people were like very confused on what it was, you know. Oh, is that the trailer for a new movie coming out? What's going on? It's AI, you know. It's neither of those. I put fan trailer at the very beginning. to stay. And I think some people just didn't know what fan trailer was. Some people, even in my Discord, were asking if I filmed that. I didn't film any of that stuff. So if you haven't seen that fan trailer, go check it out. Basically what I did is there was a music video put out by this guy called One Night in Paris. So strange, this music video. And I guess they went and filmed. They hired this guy that looked like Bob Lazar, and they filmed all these scenes. Honestly, it's like well done. It's not AI. They definitely used some CGI, but this is like 5 years ago. And I basically took that footage and, added my own music, my own score, my own sound design. I went in and put sound effects, titles, everything, cut it differently, and just made my own fan trailer for the Bob Lazar story. I thought it was fascinating stuff, honestly. I was like, oh, damn, this is for a music video, right? Like, what? And the music is like, it doesn't seem like it fits exactly, but whatever. So that's what it was essentially. But there is a brand new documentary coming out called S4 with this guy named Luigi, who I got to meet at Contact in the Desert, and actually spent a lot of time with him just one-on-one, hanging out. And he told me a lot about this documentary coming out. So I think no matter how you feel about it, you should watch this documentary coming out, because Luigi seemed like a really, really good guy, very dedicated, just wants to tell Bob's story and let people decide. I can respect that, right? And he's putting a lot of work and effort into this film. And I can't wait to see it. It also comes with this like virtual reality experience. And I actually got a little tease, a little tease at Contact in the Desert last year of, a setting of, the sports model UFO that Bob saw. So that was really cool, but it hasn't been released, and a few of us there at Contact got to experience it before anybody. He was walking around, Luigi was walking around with his headset and letting people try it and see it, and I got to look at it myself, and I was blown away by it. I was like, wow, the detail on this is amazing. So, yeah. Jeremy's never seen this before.
Not this one. He's seen one before, but this one's the upgraded one.
Got it.
Just you wait, brother.
Bro, I cannot wait. Oh my God, I can't wait, dude. Seeing your face was like...
Look, my comment was, I've seen the sport model for years, right?
Yeah.
This is a whole new light.
It's like...
you see dimension.
It's immersive, yeah. Oh my God, dude. Look, I support this stuff coming out. I definitely support people putting in effort into projects like this, right? Like, they just want to tell a story, you decide for yourself. No problem. If anything, it's great entertainment, to be honest with you. Bob's story is like great entertainment as well. So, because if true, again, it's the perfect story about UFOs, right? It's like, has everything. So anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments about all this, and we'll see you guys in the next one, veterans. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
I went into the hangar door, and in the hangar door was the disc, the flying saucer that I worked on. I saw it sitting there, and we walked by it. It had a little American flag stuck on the side, and I thought, oh my God, this finally explains all the flying saucer stories. This is just an advanced fighter. To be on that cutting edge of technology is so alluring to me. It violated a lot of what we thought was impossible to violate. This project was to back engineer the alien craft, and specifically it was to try and back engineer and see if we can duplicate the technology with available materials. don't really care that there's aliens or where they come from. I mean, the prize is the technology, and that's what I'm fascinated by.